with our cardiovascular system, which hopefully, as you've seen now up to this point, it covers a lot of material. We've talked about the blood, we've talked about the heart, we're now talking about our vessels, the part that we're going to know as the vascular portion. And we had worked our way up to talking about how we're going to find that we have arteries, we've got our veins, we've got our capillaries, we've got our capillary beds, we've mentioned arterioles, okay? And at the point that we had left off at the capillaries. One of the things that I think happens, and I've mentioned this before, is a lot of people tend to think that when we talk about blood moving through the body, a lot of people tend to associate that with all of these big vessels that we have. The ones that are identifiable. Ones that we can look and we can see under our skin. That's just a travel, okay? That is literally just a way of the fluid, the blood, traveling, okay? If it is getting any type of exchange at these points right here, something's wrong, okay? Now, it is going to be at the point that we can't see, it's microscopic, it's at the area of the capillaries where exchange occurs. One of the things that we've talked about quite a few times is if we have a tissue, all right, and that tissue contains all of our cells, all right, embedded throughout this tissue is where we're going to see our capillary beds, all right, and they'll be embedded all the way throughout this tissue. And if you remember, one side has the arterial flow, which means the blood is moving into that capillary bed, and the other side is my veins, the venous side. When we get to this point right here, we're going to find that the blood flowing in, which is bringing all the nutrients, oxygen, all materials that those tissues might need. For them to make it to those tissues, we're going to have that ability for exchange. So, at the capillary end, we're going to find in this area arterioles, very tiny arteries. All right, that's what they're letting us know. We're going to find our capillaries, this capillary bed, and then venules, very tiny veins. This is what we call microvasculature. Have you ever heard of that? Have you ever heard of a vascular surgeon? All right, this is what the surgeon is dealing with. The surgeon is dealing with the vasculature, arteries, veins, and definitely getting down to this micro portion. Yeah. I know. Mitzi's like, what? Okay. Used to be, for example, spider veins. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Okay. Tend to happen to people who stand for their jobs, maybe overweight, that sort of thing. And over time, one of the things that'll happen is like their legs, like the calves and the thighs and stuff like that, they end up with the veins that show up really bright and stuff through the skin, and they're called spider veins because it looks like a spider web is created. Well, sometimes they could end up being very painful. You could have other issues that come along with it. Now, they can actually go in and treat that. They can go in, and these surgeons who are at this level, they can actually get to them and inject them. Now, what they do is they're getting injected with material that will dry them up, meaning blood will have to find an alternate route, okay? But it got rid of that web on the people's legs that would make people really self-conscious and that sort of thing. So this is where some of that can like happen. Now, when we look at the capillaries, one of the things that I've mentioned, they're only one cell layer thick. The reason for that, and based on the structure that they have, because they're only going to have some endothelium, which is that cell structure, and then a basal lamina, part of the connective tissue wrapping. And the reason for that, this allows for movement of materials. The structure that we have with this endothelium and the basal lamina means material is going to get to move out of those capillaries into my extracellular fluid, and then wastes that are in my extracellular fluid get to move into the venous side. This is how we exchange materials at the cellular level. Note that's important for your essay question. All right, because this is the point. Exchange occurs at the cellular level. Why does the material that gets exchanged go into the extracellular fluid? Okay, this is the point. Everything happens in the body. So let's think about this for a second. I can't emphasize, I really can't, how important this concept is. When you go to your programs, when you go to take your test, this is what they're going to want you to know. So, if this is the point for exchange, in my blood, from the arterial side, what types of materials am I carrying in this blood? I've got some oxygen. Well, when we think of proteins in the blood on that arterial side, an actual protein itself, that's going to function to transport a material. But if we think about the cells in these tissues, what do they need so that they can make a protein that could be that would be transported in the blood? Alex?
Glucose.
Well, now glucose is a food. It's actually a food energy source for the cell, but we are carrying our glucose. But now remember, in these cells, the only thing a cell can make is protein, but it needs the products to make that protein. What do we string together to make a protein?
Amino acids.
Amino acids. So in my blood, I'm carrying amino acids. Does that make sense? Okay. What else could I be carrying in my blood? Emily? We're carrying our ions. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, zinc. Now, let's take this to another level. What about if we have medications? Does anybody know what happens with that in the body? Okay, let's go with a pill we have to take by mouth. All right, we take the pill by mouth, goes to the digestive system, where hopefully it's coated in a way that it gets to make it to our small intestines. Okay, because it's got to be able to withstand that acidic environment of the stomach to certain levels. Okay, and then our goal is to make sure that those particles in that pill get to make it to our small intestines, so that in the small intestines, which are lined heavily with vessels. Okay, when you look at the small intestines and their structure, those villi, they are, I mean, it is, the blood supply to the small intestines is huge. The goal being that these materials that we have consumed get to make it to the bloodstream. Now, in the case of, thinking about medication, the goal is hopefully before the blood makes it to the liver and the kidneys, which will begin to detoxify it, that some of that medication that we take in will finally make it to a capillary level. Is everybody following me? So at that point, if we have some medications, okay, they can make it to my capillary levels, make it to extracellular fluid, and whatever they need to encounter and take care of will hopefully be done. But that's a long trip. All right? Now, have you ever thought about why you may have to take medication in